Can you just quickly tell me if this is on, because I can't see without my glasses?
Good eye supper. Here's the church at Vorsegården. Beautiful church with a bell tower. In fact, there are two churches. The other churches behind. I can't remember their names for the moment. My name is Richard Davis. I'm an architectural photographer from London. And I've been travelling in Russia for the last 10 years on a project to photograph wooden churches. I knew that, to do a proper book, you needed time. You don't create a book in a fortnight. You need a subject that you really believe in. Obviously, I fell in love with the churches. They are extraordinary objects. They're beautiful objects. I'm going to read something here that Richard Chancellor wrote in the 16th century. He didn't intend to come to Russia. He was actually looking for the Northeast Passage. There was a big storm and they ended up in the White Sea. And this is what he wrote about the churches. He said, "Their churches are built of timber, and the towers of their churches for the most part are covered with shingle boards. At the doors of their churches, they usually build some entrance or porch as we do." We've just arrived at Purunema. I can show you our colleagues who are relaxing in the boat here in the foreground. We've all had a really good journey. It was wonderfully sunny. It's gone rather dull now.
No, короче говоря.
Okay.
Мне нужно. Да.
Got any ideas? What should I do? I haven't slept in a tent for a long time. Okay, so we'll now just have a little walk around the church. This church at Purunema was built, they say, in 1618, although there could be some doubt about that. You can see the roof here is pretty rotten and needs a lot of work. The timber has an amazing texture. The camera I'm using is a Hasselblad, and it's called an art body, and it's got a rising front, which means that when you take a photograph, it doesn't look as though the building's falling over, because you're not tipping the camera up, you're just lifting the lens.
I suppose this church might have been built even before 1618. That was the year when the church was registered in the records of the Tsar's Archaeological Commission, and it was dated solely on the strength of a survey among local clergy. St. Nicholas the Miracle Worker was the patron saint of all White Sea mariners and explorers. They certainly needed his protection, and indeed had it, as they braved the perils of rough seas, making their way from village to village. All those whom death haunts each time they head out to sea are reconciled with the thought that they may be unable to come back. For that reason, they have a totally different perception of faith compared to people living far from the shore. Buildings on the White Sea coast are filled with the keen sense of life that's typical of people living in the north.
Here's some more graffiti on the wall, more lovers. And this is a big space, we can see. And on the wall here, you can see where there were projectors. Those are the holes for the projectors. So this was obviously used as the club and the cinema during Soviet times. So I guess there would have been a big screen where the iconostasis was. And this is in a pretty bad state as well. We've been to the church, and we're now going to try and find somebody in the village who will maybe tell us something about the history of the church, and hopefully find somebody who saw a film in the Church of the Nativity. There's a lady ahead with a red headscarf who might know something.
Здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте. Человек тут стоит-то.
Человек.
Здравствуйте, здравствуйте.
Олега, друг.
Олега, ну, а коллег-то в Онеге или где?
В Онеге.
А ты?
Я-то тут.
А, ну давай. А коллежка-то куда уж? Берут в армию.
Так тетя Руфа говорила, заберут 4-го
А,
служить.
ну давай. Пусть дай ему, Господи, путь и дорогу.
You okay? You okay?
Propaganda back then was focused against the church and everything it stood for. Communists and members of the Young Communist League were behind the campaign. This church here was the only suitable place for a club. People danced here every weekend, and the club was closed down in 1983.
And the church is a religious monument, obviously, but it's also an object of wonder. You know, it's something that people can look at, and it opens their eyes. It shows what can be achieved by using your imagination. And you know, hopefully the religious activity will return, but it still needs to be saved. Since the breakup of the Soviet Union, obviously there have been other more important things to do with your money, like buy Ferraris and expensive watches and things like that. But I'm hoping that people will wake up to the fact that these objects are precious and do need care.
Red? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's red?
Okay, so we're eventually going to try and get to the boats. It's taken a long time so far, and there are 2 more parties to go. It's very muddy. Hello, smile for the camera, please. But there's a lot of wading to do before we can be picked up. The seashore here is very, very shallow.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I have a brother who's mentally handicapped, and my mother spent her whole life trying to raise money to support people who were mentally handicapped. You know, watching my mother do that, maybe I feel that I should be doing something to support something that I think is worthwhile. You know, I could say that my mother was an inspiration because I saw her, you know, devoting her life to the cause that she had. I haven't done that. I've devoted my life to, you know, myself and my family and other things. But, you know, preserving our heritage, this is a little moment when it might be possible to make a tiny difference in a tiny world of wooden churches. We're just having a little walk in the village now. You can see that all the houses are empty. We think there's just one family in the village at the moment, and they're just here for the summer. Nice sign of life here. There's some very beautiful strawberry curtains. And then we spin round again. And then here's the church.
And here you can see St. Nicholas Church. It was built in the 1820s. Today it serves as a reminder of the fate of many other Russian wooden churches. Back in the old days, churches were a form of spiritual support not only for the villages, but also the whole surrounding area. People used to flock to them on Sundays and major holidays. It's fair to say that now the villages are dying in much the same way as the churches.
This is the church at Burizhnema. It's quite late. It was built in the 19th century. It must have been wonderful in its day because it's in this extraordinary village, very beautiful village on the White Sea. This is the third day of our trip, and we've just had lunch after seeing the church, and our captain is worried that it's getting too windy for us to move on, so we're all sitting here lying on the rocks getting the sleep that we didn't get last night, and hoping that we will be able to continue soon. We're on the edge of the sea, and you can just see our boat in the distance, and the sea's getting rougher and rougher, so we're stranded here. We've been stranded here for a good few hours now, but hopefully things will get better. They've been in touch with the people in Archangel, and they say that the weather should settle down. It's a beautifully sunny day, but the wind is pretty strong.
Let's try over here. Do you have a hook?
Here, take this stick.
There are no stones here, Alexei.
It's about 1 meter deep. And here we see examples of early and late architecture standing side by side. A belfry serves as a connection between these two times. It's all in harmony with the village. Building a wooden church is like writing poetry. No perfect work of poetry seems to involve much effort on the part of its author, but in fact, each verse takes a good deal of effort, and so does each one of the logs that go into a wooden church. Wooden churches are said to have no nails in them. This is not a figure of speech. It's simply the most convenient way of building a wooden church. The joints are very firm as a result of the fact that the logs weigh down on each other.
Потолки прогнили, полы прогнили.
Evgeny is talking to a man who worked on the restoration of the church. What do you think he knows about the reconstruction?
This is where the collective farm stored its grain. The domes were pulled down soon after the revolution. Young people in the country believed in neither God nor in the devil at that time. They had other ideals. Ropes would be fixed to the domes, and crowds of youngsters would pull at them to bring the domes down. The roof would then be covered up. The church next door was used as a clubhouse throughout the years of Soviet government.
The way out. In our backstage, go to the dressing rooms. Stove. And here's the view from the stage. The clubhouse was brought into existence as a place where villagers could get culture of a specific sort. In clubhouses, professional kulturbotniki, culture workers, were charged with planning activities in the remote village areas, including celebrations of the new Soviet holidays, dances, plays, agitation of Soviet ideals and atheism, and importantly, keeping watch over the success and failures of the kolkhoz. We've just walked a quarter of a mile, let's say half a mile from the shore to the boat. The water wasn't very deep. Even here we're punting away until there's enough room to turn on the outboard motor. Are you getting on the subject?
Everyone out.
Беленькой молочи коника братает мою зеляно, красная девчонка у его пытает
So, 3 o'clock in the morning, and we're looking for some food. We've been up all night. The girls have been singing beautiful songs, So we've now come down to the beach before we go to sleep for a couple of hours. As we're on the island of Kondo Ostrov, which was part of the Gulag, I thought I'd read something. On Bolshoi Solovetsky, the main island of this White Sea archipelago, there is a fortified monastery. It was founded in 1429. Until the 19th century, this was the only official state prison in Russia and housed many important religious and historical figures. These magnificent walls, built for the glory of God, witnessed monstrous events over hundreds of years. The Gulag Archipelago, the network of camps that stretched across the vast territory of the Soviet Union, started life on this small cluster of beautiful islands set in what Solzhenitsyn rightly called a mother-of-pearl sea. We've spent today without the group. The group from the university went off to another church at the White Sea, but I was keen to go to Chazovo and see the people there. The church there is being restored. Alexei, when did the chapel disappear? A long time ago.
Sometime after the revolution, but one knows.
No one knows exactly. Yeah. As you can see, it's an absolutely wonderful church. It's huge, and when I first came here, it was in a terrible state, and nobody seemed to be really interested in restoring it or doing any work at all. And now we've met Alexei Sutin, whose mother is from the village, and he's very involved in trying to restore the village and raise funds to. Going inside, you can see that they are getting things going. You know, it's looking much cleaner and much nicer. It's being tidied up, but there is still a hell of a lot of work to do.
Праве и волны страстей укроти, якогда в тишине божественной быв песнословлю Тя. Святый великий Иоанне, предтече Господень, моли Бога о нас. Недоуменный просветився просвещением.
We've only just started. When it will be finished is anyone's guess. But I'm not doing it alone. I couldn't have coped without help from the others. In fact, I might have given up on it.
Svetlana. So, can you just sign your name? Спасибо большое.
There's a good saying. Faith without deeds is death. We need to finish the job, if only for the sake of those kids sitting on the benches. They see we're trying to do something to restore this everlasting treasure. I'm only doing what I think is right. I'm not out to pursue any special goals. Just what I think is right. I don't know. I'm sure some will say that I'm doing this without God's blessing. But, well, if I think it's right, I know that somehow things have always worked out in the past month.
Now just pan back and you can see
It dominates the landscape in a very, very beautiful way. And that's the old Russia, and I'm just going to swing the camera around and show you what's on the opposite side of the bank. This is the new Russia in all its glory and crassness. I mean, I'm happy for them to coexist, but I certainly know which of the Russias I prefer.